Legend says there is a dark ritual in South Korea to bring the dead back to life. By drinking a close relative's essence and offering a fire purification sacrifice, the deceased resurrect in a mortal body and gain demonic powers. Soyeon is an investigator for a current affairs program. To create a viral show, she has been hunting for cult-related material recently. One day, she receives a tip from a Japanese reporter vaguely mentioning a connection to the evil Three Immortals Island cult. Since she is the only one on the team who speaks Japanese, her boss sends her to meet. But while waiting for the elevator with her co-worker Alan, she suddenly hears strange noises from the hallway. Driven by curiosity, she walks over, only to see a little girl seemingly whipping something. This bizarre scene terrifies her. However, when she steps into the hallway, it is completely empty. She wonders if everything was just a hallucination. Shortly after, the two of them meet the Japanese reporter as planned. His name is Matsuda. He claims that during the Japanese occupation, a Japanese man named Sato, he founds a cult called Three Immortals Island and brutally murders thousands of Korean believers. She is very interested in this kind of viral material. So after returning home, she starts searching online for information about the cult. But then the lights suddenly go out. The creepy sound echoes again. She gathers her courage and follows the sound to the living room, only to see a creepy, shirtless man. The moment they make eye contact, a painful memory suddenly floods her mind. Right after, a little girl inexplicably appears. The creepy man holds a thorny branch and slowly walks towards her. But as the lights turn on, the bizarre scene completely vanishes. These consecutive strange events make her realize that this so-called cult is definitely not simple. To figure out the situation, the team researches the cult with the reporter again the next day. According to his materials, the cult originates in a small Korean mountain village. The founder believes he is a god with a snake spirit's energy, using this to preach and gather followers. But not long after, he and his family bizarrely pass away. Only the concubine side of the family survives. Rumor has it that the concubine gives birth to a daughter. Her name is Nami, and she possesses stronger divine powers than Sato. This threatens his position, so he orders his followers to capture her and burn her to death. But before she dies, she places a curse on his family with immense resentment. This causes his bizarre and sudden death. Although the cult declines, some followers escape to Japan and establish a new cult called the Red Forest. Coincidentally, their high priest leaves for 1 week every year. This period perfectly aligns with the time of her fiery execution. The reporter speculates that the high priest likely visits the site of her death in Tokuyama, because while cursing the family, she also leaves a prophecy stating that she will kill everyone who harmed her upon resurrection. To prevent her resurrection, the cult sends the high priest to perform rituals at the ancient Tokuyama shrine every year. Seeing things getting increasingly bizarre, the team decides to head to Tokuyama to investigate. After some time, the group arrives at a remote village. But at this moment, Alan, who is putting on makeup, Alan suddenly sees a charred ghost appear behind Soyeon. Hey! Before they can react, a large bucket of essence is splashed onto them. Seeing the villagers' creepy expressions, Soyeon gets a bad feeling. But to investigate the cult, the group braces themselves and enters the village. But suddenly, they realize hanging rats cover the entire village. According to the store owner, the village worships the snake spirit, so they offer rats as sacrifices. Although the group finds it strange, they do not say much. After settling down, the driver and Alan go to the village chief's house to apply for a filming permit and ask about the ancient shrine. Soyeon and Matsuda head directly to the shrine to record the inside. The shrine manager receives them and enthusiastically gives them a tour. Deep inside the room hangs a special symbol that seems related to the cult. But just as Soyeon tries to take a closer look, the manager stops her and says she needs the village chief's permission. Outsiders cannot enter without permission. Left with no choice, the two return to the village. They happen to run into Alan and the crew filming. They realize this village is extremely bizarre. Not only do dead rats hang everywhere, but yellow talismans also cover the walls. It looks like they are suppressing something. Later, the group learns a legend from the locals. A long time ago, a snake spirit falls in love with a human and gives birth to a small golden snake. She speculates that the golden snake mentioned by the villagers is likely the girl who burns to death. But one thing still does not make sense. The cult visits the shrine every year to prevent her resurrection. But why do the villagers keep offering resurrection sacrifices? Could there be a hidden secret? At night, as she prepares for bed, she suddenly spots a snake in the room. The snake crawls into Alan's bed, terrifying her completely. Before she can calm down, she hears creepy noises from outside again. Driven by curiosity, she gathers her courage and steps into the courtyard. But there is absolutely nothing there. But the next second, when Soyeon wakes up again, she finds herself tied to an altar. She is surrounded by cultists holding torches who seem ready to burn her alive. Facing such a terrifying situation, she struggles desperately. Fortunately, she jolts awake in her bed the next second, realizing it was all just a nightmare. But the dream feels so real that she can even smell something burning on her body. Before she can process this, Alan rushes over and tells her to step outside quickly. It turns out today is the village's annual sacrificial ceremony, where they offer pig heads and rats to worship the snake spirit. In the center of the altar, a masked, creepy man covered in runes twists his body, looking extremely bizarre. The group quickly records it with their cameras, but they are terrified again the very next second. The creepy man lifts a bloody pig head and spins around, sprinkling essence onto the villagers. Seeing such a bizarre scene, Soyeon feels a growing sense of unease. Meanwhile, Alan is so terrified that she passes out. At this moment, a police officer suddenly steps forward and says he will take Alan to the hospital. But the meticulous Soyeon discovers a bite mark on Alan's hand. Judging by the shape, it is likely left by a snake attack. Thinking about the village's snake spirit rumors makes her panic even more. Everything here is simply too bizarre. During dinner, the village chief tells the group about the village's past. But when he mentions the cult, his expression suddenly turns dark. The surrounding villagers all turn to stare at him, seemingly warning him to keep his mouth shut. This bizarre scene terrifies the group once again. Fortunately, the villagers return to normal shortly after. But the numerous strange events still make the group uneasy. The driver feels they cannot just sit around, so he suggests sneaking into the shrine to investigate. She also agrees with this idea. But before that, she has another thing to do. That is, to uncover the Japanese reporter's true identity. In her view, if he simply wants to find viral material, there is absolutely no need to take such risks, because she also hides a secret in her heart. Furthermore, the reporter understands the cult better than anyone else. There is only one possibility. Matsuda is a follower of the cult. Faced with her interrogation, Matsuda has no choice but to reveal his true intentions. It turns out he once had a wife who joins the Red Forest cult after being brainwashed because she owes a massive debt she cannot repay. But after joining, she realizes the promised debt forgiveness is a complete scam. By this time, she is already under their control, making it impossible to escape the cult's grasp. Filled with regret and despair, she ultimately takes her own life. His is why Matsuda has been investigating the cult all these years, but the deeper he digs, the more terrified he becomes. Fortunately, he finally has a way to destroy the cult now. Hearing his story makes Soyeon feel incredibly heartbroken, because she is also a victim of an evil cult. When she was little, she watched her mother sink deeper into a cult until she could not escape and took her own life. Late at night, the three of them sneak into the ancient shrine. To uncover the truth, they install cameras in every corner of the hallway. But while they are investigating the shrine, one of the crew members, who stays in the village due to illness, encounters something bizarre. A bug crawls into his ear. The intense pain makes his head feel like it is splitting open. When the pain finally subsides, the village chief suddenly appears before him. He orders the villagers to hold the man down, then uses scissors to cut off his ear as a sacrifice to the snake spirit. Meanwhile, the unaware trio is still investigating inside the shrine. In a daze, a little girl suddenly walks past Soyeon, seemingly worshipping something. Just as Soyeon is about to step forward and check, a charred hand suddenly grabs her. While she is at a loss for what to do, the surrounding environment returns to normal. But she knows that everything just now is not a hallucination at all. So she carefully checks the spot where the little girl was worshipping and finds an entrance to a basement. To figure everything out, the three of them gather their courage and walk inside. But right at this moment, the flashlight in the driver's hand suddenly runs out of battery. Left with no choice, he has to return to the car to get spare batteries. But immediately after, a large group of villagers suddenly appears behind the driver. They hold sacks with gloomy expressions. Just as the driver is terrified, a police car drives over. The person arriving is exactly the officer who took Alan to the hospital earlier. Seeing this, the driver thinks he has finally met his savior. But the next second, it turns out this officer is in cahoots with the villagers. The officer takes a knife and gouges the driver's eyes out alive. Meanwhile, the unaware Soyeon and Matsuda are investigating in the basement. But immediately after, the hallway lights suddenly go out. As strange sounds echo in her ears, a completely charred ghost suddenly appears. But when So-yeon recovers and looks again, the hallway in front of her is completely empty. She can only faintly hear strange sounds coming from ahead. To find out the truth, the two follow the sound to an altar. Several priests sit around it. But just as Matsuda steps forward to ask about the situation, he realizes these priests have been dead for a long time. Seeing that people are dead, So-yeon does not dare to stay any longer. She prepares to leave the basement and call the police. But Matsuda violently grabs her. It turns out Matsuda is the one pulling the strings behind all of this. The shrine manager is actually his subordinate. The venomous snake that bit Alan was controlled by her. Upon learning this, So-yeon bolts and runs for her life. But after running out of the basement, she sees a large crowd of villagers. They have strange expressions on their faces. On the altar table sit 3 photos, which are the victims who have already been murdered. Then, the villagers place a blank photo on the table. Clearly, it is So-yeon's turn next. When So-yeon wakes up again, she is already tied to an altar. The bodies of her 3 companions lie nearby. Matsuda kills so many people just to resurrect Nami, who was burned to death long ago. The reason she is left for last is because she is Nami's only living blood relative. Nami can only be resurrected by being offered the blood of a close relative as a sacrifice. Matsuda's ultimate goal is to obtain Nami's divine powers. He wants to rebuild the cult and become its master. After extracting essence from So-yeon, the manager kicks over the fire stove. She performs the final sacrifice through fire purification. But unexpectedly for Matsuda, after the manager drinks So-yeon's essence, she cannot handle the immense energy. She flies into the air and explodes to death. After being engulfed by the flames, So-yeon eerily transforms into Nami. It is clear that while Nami is resurrected, Matsuda's plan has failed. Under Nami's overwhelming pressure, Matsuda loses his mind and becomes a puppet. The villagers outside also slaughter each other under the snake spirit's influence. In the end, only Nami walks out of this bizarre village alone. Let's dive into the story next time.